Welcome to Doctors Rating Trends. This is where twin doctors, Ivy League trained, rate the latest trends of today. And today we're going to be going over the carnivore diet. My name is Jackson Jones. I've been an orthopedic surgeon that's been in clinical practice for the last 10 years. So I get to apply these trends and recommend these trends or tell my patients to stay the hell away from these trends. And this is my brother,
Hi, I'm
Dr.
Jess
Jones.
Jones, and after getting a medical degree, I went on into the venture capital space to professionally discern between what's bullshit and what isn't in the world trends. And tell you what, nothing quite like millions of dollars to place on a bet makes you really dig deep to try and figure out what's real and what isn't. So this has been my profession for a long time, and now I'm happy to apply them skills to the masses, and
Like I was
specifically on the carnivore diet.
So, getting into it, the carnivore diet is a lot like it sounds. It's a pure meat diet. It has been a trend, especially lately, among a lot of celebrities. It's kind of our latest, greatest diet trend if you get out there and with all the cool kids. So, we'll start off by kind of the do's and the don'ts of the carnivore diet. First off, anything that walks, swims, or flies is considered fair game for this diet. It's because it is so new, the rules are not 100% defined on this. We do know that it's meat and it should only be meat to the purists. However, there are there's a gray area. One is milk, cheese, and then yogurt is a huge gray area. Obviously, there's different types of yogurt. There's yogurt that has sugar in it, there's yogurt that has fruit in it. This is referencing to that Greek yogurt that doesn't have many of the additives. Again, though, there is some controversy depending on what source that you read if you can add these in. And then off limits for the carnivores are anything that didn't walk, swim, or fly. This is your vegetables, grains, fruits, sugar, starch, and the one that was very upsetting when I read about it was alcohol.
Okay, that does it. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
A couple of people that have pretty big platforms have been advocating the carnivore diet. One is Jordan Peterson. He had some issues with some anxiety and some other emotional problems. He has family members that have pretty nasty rheumatoid arthritis, and he said that when he went on the diet, all of this cleared up, not just the emotional issues that he was having, but also, and some of the psychiatric issues that he was having, but also some of the inflammatory conditions that his family had. His daughter was another person that went on this is known for having really bad rheumatoid arthritis, and he said this cleared up as well. Joe Rogan says that he just felt a lot better on the carnivore diet. So, getting back into some of the ideas of how this works, it's theorized that this is a diet of exclusion. So you hear a lot about people who have an allergy to nuts. You hear about people who have an allergy to gluten. You hear about people that say high carbohydrates make you feel crummy. Pretty much any kind of allergy, any sort of sensitivity is wiped out with the carnivore diet. And so a lot of people theorize that you feel a lot better on this diet just because you've literally wiped out anything that could be causing you harm in the inflammatory world. There is euphoria that comes with this that we've talked about in a prior video related to ketosis. A lot of people will go into ketosis. We can get into that a little bit in the discussion. If it's pure protein, it actually will kick you back out of ketosis because there just isn't enough energy in that. And so you do need to add in fat as a source of energy to maintain the ketosis. There is a theorized testosterone boost with this. There's a lot of anecdotal reports of higher testosterone. There are studies that refute this, but if there is a huge testosterone gain, you're going to have a lot of weight loss with this. And then if all you're doing is eating meat all the time, the idea that you'll get muscle is fairly obvious. You have a constant source of protein coming in, all the building blocks for muscle gain. This does tie back into the testosterone as well. If there is, in fact, a gain of testosterone, you're going to see muscle gain that comes with testosterone as well. The science on this is a relatively new study, so a lot of the science that exists are talking about high protein diets, not necessarily exclusive carnivore diets. There was an interesting study where they went extremely high protein with very few other um, dietary additives for 3 weeks. In Denmark, it was a randomized study. It was in young adults, and they found that they actually had improved reaction times when they were doing physical tests. And one of the theories was when they tested the blood, they found large amounts of phenylalanine and branched chain amino acids, which anybody who works out knows that these are essential for gaining muscle mass, and especially when you're going into the fast twitch muscles and gaining large amounts of bulk, which will help with reaction time and muscle gain. So that's the theory as to why it helps with that. There was a large review that was done in an endocrine journal which went through all of the essential vitamins that they could think of. One of the big criticisms of an all meat diet is that maybe you're missing a lot of those protein or those vitamins and essential minerals that you get out of plants. And there have been some studies looking back on this. It said with the sources of meat out there, you can maintain a normal level of all those vitamins. The testosterone studies is still extremely controversial. If you get into high protein diet studies out there are studies that state that if you go super high protein, that you actually decrease your testosterone level. There's other studies that say moderately high proteins will increase your testosterone level. There's still a fair amount of controversy over how diet plays into testosterone. So it's really difficult to say anything about that particular issue. As far as long-term studies, diet's just a little bit too new. People will look back and talk about the Eskimos. They'll talk about Native American populations and other populations out there that were almost entirely meat diet, and then try and deduce from the experiences of the past what there is to expect. But as my brother stated in another video, a lot of different bodies have adapted to different diets. So to be able to apply the experience of a Native American population to a different population and how it tolerates a carnivore diet, you just can't do that at this point. So at this point, I will hand it over to my brother to talk about the dark side of the carnivore diet.
So, first and foremost, with the carnivore diet, is that it is a very difficult diet to maintain. You go through that honeymoon stage, you're eating a lot of meat, a lot of fat. If you're a steak eater, this just seems like an absolutely wonderful affair. And then as time goes on and you start to realize that you're only eating meat, it can be a little bit oppressive. It's kind of a pain if that's the only thing on the table for you and you can't get any variety. I know that when I go and eat meat for a long period of time, start to crave a salad or anything else, and then finally at some point it can go either way. A lot of people attest to the fact that they feel great on it, but some folks, just say it's kind of an oppressive thing to try and do and maintain when you start to realize the amount of meat that you're going to be eating in your diet. So other problems with the carnivore diet are that it's low fiber. I mean, when we're talking about how heavy and oppressive it is, constipation's at the top of that list of things that can happen to you, and you're just eating very, very heavy, low fiber diet that can just get impacted. So, might be good to go find your local colonic provider if you're going to be doing the all meat diet, which shouldn't be a problem in places like LA and San Francisco. But if you're out in the middle of the Midwest, it could be an issue. Um, Next is the cardiac health. We touched on this a little bit in the keto segment, where once you switch over to just fatty meats, it definitely logically would be pushing your cholesterol levels higher. And so the question is, what does this mean for you? If you have a history of cardiovascular disease, I can tell you right now, you should probably try and stay away from it. And then again, jumping into the keto diet issues, which we discussed at greater length in another video, but to go over them briefly, transitioning over to a keto diet with no sugars, you're going to feel sick at first. It's called the keto flu. You might have difficulty with your energy levels. Again, it kind of depends on what body type you have and how fast you're going to be ramping up activities while you go on to an all meat diet. And then again, the cardiovascular health is another issue. And then finally, well, not finally, but the penultimate issue is that it is sparsely studied. And my brother touched on that. There's not a lot of long term diet because this thing was just barely invented recently by a certain person who got it out there. So if you want to follow a diet, it might be good, to take your advice from somebody who doesn't put on a cloth cap and do tons and tons of selfies over 50. Now, don't get me wrong, he looks good, but he's the one putting these pictures out there, and he's looking very, very serious. It's all over his social media and his advertising. And, if you feel good outdoors without a shirt on, you probably don't need a cloth beanie to keep your head warm. The guy who invented it's also an orthopedic surgeon. And, from their standpoint, cardiovascular health, they know that there's this thingy next to your spine that pumps the blood around, but that's about as far as a lot of them know, unless they made it their profession, their side profession, to look into trends all day long. In that case, orthopods are on top of it. And then this guy lost his medical license in 2017, and it was actually reinstated later. So there's some worries out there that he's a little bit of a hack, but there are some people who are swearing by it. So I think that's a good opportunity for us to jump into the discussion with an orthopedic surgeon who's on the other end of the spectrum,
Obviously.
which is this guy right here.
Yeah. No, that's the selfie shot that you see there is part of our application process into orthopedics. So I can't begrudge him that. That's been baked into our training right there.
And we did have it in the keto presentation.
Absolutely.
So if anyone wants to see how the meat diet looks in an orthopedic surgeon, but are sick of looking at him, then you can look at our old presentation and see.
You want to demonstrate good results.
See my brother.
That's
Yeah.
the key. I mean, when you have a result that's spectacular, the world needs to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
high
level.
This, I would say that I know people that have tried this diet. They generally felt great, put on a ton of muscle. Energy level, we talked about this with the keto diet, where we fell short on a keto diet was we didn't add in the necessary protein. So you're adding in enough protein that you're not cannibalizing your own protein for energy. You've got plenty of outside source protein for energy. And so a lot of these people will put on a ton of muscle, they'll feel good. It was interesting with the bowel movements. The people I've talked to, purely anecdotal, there's no science behind this, said that cleared up a lot of their gastritis and a lot of the issues that they're having abdominally, and their bowel movements were more regular and felt good. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily, you can't blame that necessarily on meat. It could be there are other aspects of their diet that were messing up their GI tract. So you are eating a lot cleaner. There are a lot of other things that you're avoiding that can potentially cause gastritis, especially alcohol, which is a big one. One notable exception that almost everyone uses on this diet is caffeine. A lot of people still drink coffee, even though it's plant-based, but the purists will not. And if you cut coffee out of your diet, it's going to help your GI tract quite a bit.
That's a
So,
tough transition. You get rid of your primary energy source and caffeine. So even
and
if you are eating
alcohol.
enough and alcohol. So even if you are eating enough meat, you need to probably ratchet down your activity level and then ramp it back up slowly while your body adjusts.
This is another diet that's difficult to do in social settings, and you just miss a lot of stuff that you like. So there's some. It's a very hard diet to stay compliant on for a long time. And the big thing is the long term. Can you go eat meat for 10 years and not die of a heart attack because your cholesterol is off the charts? That's a big concern with this. There is a huge push
And
to eat fattier meats just for the energy.
I was going to say, you could, if you went down the lean meat and spent the rest of your life eating lean, dry turkey, just the white part of the meat, that's a tough life.
They do say
Turkey, no gravy.
they say one of the reasons for weight loss on this is that you can't snack. No one just eats dry turkey breast for a snack.
Right?
So yeah, you're not popping cubes of sirloin.
I
Just
actually do know a guy who that was his snack, was just rolls of turkey, and he looked great.
so we'll take it back to the scoreboard here. Um, Common sense test. If you eat a lot of meat, or you're gonna put on some muscle, lose some weight, yeah, that makes sense. You're cutting out all your carbs. It's basically just going off the keto, um, basically just piggybacking off keto on that front.
Evidence, as we discussed, not a lot of long term evidence. It's a brand new diet,
Just
and
because
so
a
it's really kind
douchebag
of
says so.
right. So it it's impossible to know until they get the longitudinal studies, which they can't do yet because these so many of these fads are new. So from an evidence standpoint, we didn't like what we saw just because it's non-conclusive and so much of this diet is still in the anecdote phase. And then with that, would I do it? No, I had a terrible experience on keto. I would never do it again. Um, and so I would definitely not go down this road. And it's unproven and quite frankly alienating. And whenever you're in a social setting, only eating meat, and I like too many things that are not meat related to eat. So I wouldn't do it. I can't think of a circumstance where I would.
I was convinced that I would do it when you showed me the picture. A lot of journal clubs in orthopedics is just sharing gym stories and then we flex. And the obvious winner of the flex contest was we adopt his method, obviously. So that's our
Makes
general
sense.
think tanks in orthopedics, and that was a good looking man for over 50. So why not give it a whirl for a little while?
Cool. So we got the pro keto camp and the anti keto camp. Do what works for you and check in with your body, see how you feel. If you have any pre existing cardiovascular conditions, it's probably not a good idea to get into this.
And realize
And
that this is an anecdotally driven, douchebag driven diet with minimal real evidence.
Yeah, but it could work. You could get lean and get ready for spring break on it.
So, all right. Well, until the next time.